Burn out. Woo! What's happening, people? Welcome to another episode of the Giants Rush podcast. So glad to have you guys. I see you piling in the room. So, very thankful that you get to hang out with me every Monday. I appreciate all that love that you guys have been giving us every single Monday here on the Giants Rush podcast. Got a cool show. Kind of give you a little bit of background. I'm bringing in a couple content creators I respect, great guys, of course, the Cranky fan, and of course, Football Grump. Fan fest, a lot of beers, good time, hanging out, wandering through the parking lot at the end of the day, and I run into Grump. We'd never met each other face to face. We're looking at each other like, what's up, dude? We're like, what's up? Next thing I know, I'm handing him a beer pong table and sending him on his way. We promised that we would get together and hang out and do some content. So I'm glad to have Football Grump and Cranky fan in the room. And of course, Dan, fresh off of having baby number 2, is also in the background. Of course, the Giants guys and NY Giants Rush is brought to you by Astroflave. If you get a chance, I know you guys are workout fiends. You're doing CrossFit, you're doing stairs, you're working out, cleans, jerks, presses, squats, you're nuts, right? Maybe you're trying to lose some weight like an old broken down player like myself. Astroflave, all natural. Check it out. 5 locations in Jersey. Please, if you get a chance, support them. They support us. They're also going to be sponsoring the Nick Gates camp that we will be live at on Friday. And then 4 weeks from now, we will be live at the Isaiah Hodgins camp, and that'll all be brought to you by Astroflave. So support them. They support us. Let's bring in the crew because we're going to talk some football with some diehards. And of course, they are the hosts of the Just Giants podcast. Make sure you check that out. It's one of the best podcasts available. Let's bring in Dan because Dan's like the orchestrator here. I didn't know Dan was buddies with these guys. What's up, Dan?
What's up, guys? Craig texted me, I'm going to have Grump on. I'm like, okay, why didn't you tell me? I talk to them literally every day. So yeah. I got on the bat phone. I got Grump. I got Cranky. How's everybody doing tonight? How are you doing tonight?
We're good, man. I want to bring these guys on because, like I said, I just was like, everyone kind of was like, they had a commitment today. And I'm like, you know what? I promised Grump. I promised him we were going to get together. And I just hadn't done a good job at it. So let me bring in what their moms may call them Mike and Mike. We call them Football Grump and the Cranky fan. Let's bring these guys on. Gentlemen, how are you?
How's it going, guys?
What's going on, guys?
Coming on.
Little do you know, it's the wives that call us Cranky and Grump, right?
Not shocking.
Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out and doing this on short notice because I know, Cranky, you're flying around the country, watching your Gators play, and I'm sure you guys got plenty of other things to do than hang out with me. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm in an awful hotel room in Boston, Massachusetts right now. So I am thank you very much for saving me from a night of boredom. So we'll talk Giants football.
Well, you know
we
what?
might even talk Little Knicks a little bit too while we're here. So you never know.
We see that's why I'm like, Craig, let me see if Cranky is at a Knicks game tonight. I saw the Knicks were playing the Rockets at home. I'm like, we got to see if he's at the Garden tomorrow. He's like, no, I'm in Boston. I'm like, all right, we got him.
I'm not saying that the Knicks game. Not saying the Knicks game isn't on the TV right to my right, but no.
But listen, the Boston, as much as I can't stand the Patriots or the Red Sox and everything that comes along with Boston, Boston's a good town, though. I never had any problem with the town. It's just,
it's the people.
It's everything.
Well, the thing is, Boston is a city of college kids that aren't from Massachusetts, right? When you go to Boston, you don't even really hear that like Massachusetts accent all that much, right? Yeah. Or at least I didn't. I've been up there 3-4 times. I had a friend that went to school there. So
it's very similar to New York. Like if you walk around Manhattan, you walk around the Village, you're going to get people from all over the place. They went to school. It's their first job before they go back to wherever they came from. But if you go out into Queens or Brooklyn, all of a sudden, you have the accents, you have the provincial attitudes, you have the neighborhood. It's the same thing here. Like if I'm right now I'm right in Copley Square, right in downtown Boston. If I go 4 miles south to Southie, you aren't seeing a bunch of guys drinking Appletinis. They're Sully at the bar and they're pounding Sam Adams and they're talking about their Pats and their C's and their B's and all that, and they don't want us there. So
they'll be talking about Kurt Schilling and all that stuff that I can't stand the stomach.
God. See, the problem with Red Sox fans and Boston fans in general, They think they are unique and special. You don't know what it's like to be a Red Sox fan. We are passionate. We care about our teams. It's like, well, no kidding. So do all of us. But they think they are, the Philly fan is just miserable people who hate everybody. They hate themselves. The Red Sox fan thinks they are above everybody else and they are special. So, we'll smack them around back. We have a couple of Super Bowls to tell them they're not. I have a ALCS win over the Red Sox to tell them they're not. My Bolts have beaten the Bruins enough to say, no, you're not. So screw them.
Well, let me ask you this, because I want to talk. We can talk how much we all hate Boston. That's easy to do. Let's talk about something that's not easy to talk about because there was a lot of money attached to it. We've been covering this, nonstop at nausea, but I just wanted to start off and get your opinion because again, you guys do this like I do every single week with the passion of that, of Giants football. Grump, what was your thought? And you don't have to, we don't have to spend too much time on it, but Barkley Jones, it's done. It's in the can. The two cornerstones are in place. What was your overall opinion? Were you for it? Were you not for it? Are you glad it's done? What was your opinion?
Look, I think the two of them complement each other perfectly. I mean, the best version of Daniel Jones has Saquon Barkley in the backfield. The best version of Saquon Barkley has Daniel Jones as his quarterback. And that's not saying that Daniel Jones is the greatest quarterback or that Saquon Barkley is the greatest running back. He's pretty close. But, if they decide that Daniel Jones is their guy and they made that decision, I think long before the season ended. I think probably, I would say not too far after the Packers game. I would say it was probably November or so that they were probably pretty sure that's where they were going with that. Once you make that decision, you gotta then give him all the best weapons and the best things that you can. We've seen this whole offseason has been about that thus far. They haven't really done a whole lot to shore up the offensive line in front of him, but one thing they have done is given him weapons. One of those weapons, to me, is Saquon Barkley. The best running game that this team fields is one in which Jones and Barkley are running, right?
Right.
I don't think anybody would argue there, right? Because if one's not there and the other is, there's something missing, right? It's
Right.
not going to be as dynamic as we know it could be. And Cranky, my question to you is: so were you in favor of having them both back? Because that's the question. Like, okay, they're here, right? We're glad they're here, but there were a portion of the fans that were like, I don't mind moving on. Where did you sit in all of this?
Yeah, I think a lot of people were. I would be willing to bet that Venn diagram of people who were like, I'm willing to move on, were the same people that were like, why did we draft this guy? And never were behind him in the first place. A lot of people that the highlight, the ESPN buzz was, every time he fumbled or every time he threw a pick. It's like, look at all these turnovers. They are things that, they grab attention, they get clicks, they get all that. So I think a lot of people that were against him, the draft pick in the first place, because he kind of, that screams Dave Gettleman and the old regime. And they just were never into him in the first place. So I think a lot of people were, they were out. And, to Grump's point, that it was probably around the Packer game they made that decision, but it's not because of only like 5 or 6 regular season games. This front office, this coaching staff was with Daniel Jones every single day from the day they took over in January. They went through an entire offseason with this guy. They went through minicamp. They went through training camp, preseason games. He didn't play that much, every day in practice. So their body of work, which they made that decision that he was their guy and they're moving forward, was a lot more than just 5 or 6 regular season games, or even 16 regular season or 17 regular season games and 2 playoff games. It was, we see this guy's work ethic. We see what he does, how he works with his receivers, his offensive line and everything. And I think they made that decision based on a lot more things than just playing these games. To your question, it's very, very hard in the NFL to get a starting quarterback and a guy who you think you can win with. It's the
100%.
It's the toughest position in sports. It's even tougher to find that guy. If you think you have that guy, you keep him and you pay him.
Right.
And because the replacement cost, not only in, the dollars it costs to replace him, but just getting the ability to get that guy is so much harder.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, and I get Grump's points. We talk about this all the time. I don't know. And it's purely a financial reason for me. It's like, as excited as we were for making the playoffs, as excited as we are about the trajectory of this team, they're further along than we thought. This team is still in rebuild mode. There is a lot of holes on this team. There's a lot of depth issues on this team.
Right.
Sure.
And, we were dumpster diving all last year to get anybody who can get on the field and play for us. Now we have some money. We don't have all the money in the world. We've made a lot of moves this offseason. I'm sure we'll talk about them. But do I really want to commit all of that money for Saquon Barkley for this year? And if they sign a deal with him, what that's going to be? It's not a move I want to make from a on the field standpoint, but I'm still looking at this as what this front office is doing. They're trying to have this team built for sustained success, not just for 1 year, for the next this generation of players they have right now.
Well, let me just jump in on the contract of this thing, because, as the for this move or not for these moves or whatever, right now, they're only really truly tied to Daniel Jones for 2 years.
Right.
Yep,
So
correct.
This is a move I can't argue with. First of all, they're picking at 25. So any chance they have of drafting a quarterback this year is pretty much out the window. And if you think giving him all this money is an asset, the amount of things they'd have to give up to trade to get anywhere near getting a quarterback in the draft is astronomical. So that's not going to happen. So I think what they're really trying to do with Barkley is to franchise tag him is the last ditch effort. But what they really would like to do is have him along for 2 years. I think they want to keep this as a 2-year idea.
Correct.
And I can't argue with that. If Barkley decides he's going to play on the tag instead, then that's fine. But I don't think that they're committing to Saquon Barkley beyond even the idea of Saquon Barkley beyond 4 years at maximum. Right.
Yep.
So, I mean, really, I think they're angling for that 2-year window with these guys, and they'll make the adjustments as needed. Like, are they really still sold on Jones after 2 years? Does he need Saquon Barkley to be Daniel Jones? Does he need something else? You know what I mean? So it's such a minimal investment. And I guess the big argument against franchise tagging Barkley this year is that you're investing $10 million of this year's cap. To me, yes, you can use a chunk of that money to do things elsewhere. But if it's just a this year problem, you're really starting to weigh the thing. It's like, are we going to the Super Bowl this year or not? You know what I mean? So who cares if the $10 million is for this year? That's Saquon Barkley. He wants to play for 1 year. That's his problem. He wants to play in the tag.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
the way I see it.
I've said this to Dan on numerous occasions. What people don't realize is because they won, the lens is very different.
Right.
Now,
It's 100%.
right? Because you won, starting at the top, going down, right? The GM now's expectations are different. The head coach's expectations are different. So think about it. Would I want to give away my franchise quarterback and my running back to start all over and drop down to 3 or 4 wins? Like, the expectations, what did the owner say when the season ended? We screwed this kid up as much as we possibly can, right? So the way I looked at it was, regardless of what we want, regardless of the 2-year out or the 1 year out, I firmly believe that, of course, the owner wanted them back, right? Because he's already said that, hey, we screwed these guys up. But I also think that Shane and Dable realized, wow, our best chance of winning in these next, as you said, Grump, these next 2 years, 3 years is with these guys together. If we start over, we may drop. The bridge quarterback may win us 5 games. It's gonna cause a lot of problems. What do we have now? People are asking their agents to come bring them to the Giants, right? Like they're what did Okereke, if I'm pronouncing it right? Okereke, right? Or Okereke, depending on who you are, right? Is saying, hey, let's put the Giants at the top of the board. They're on their way. So now you're getting players that want to come here. And Dan and I have talked about it. Like, a bridge quarterback starting from fresh. It didn't seem, after the season they both had, it didn't seem like that was going to be realistic.
Right. And
starting over.
And like what me and Cranky and Grump would do before, if we went back to August at FanFest to the last game of the year, our tone and everything completely did a 180. Even though we're still cognizant of all all right, we're still in a rebuild, but we're actually winning. So how does Joe Shane and Dayball and the rest of the brass just figure out how to rebuild while still winning at the same time? And that's arguably the hardest thing to do in pro sports.
I guess that's the litmus. That's the real litmus test of this front office and this coaching staff is, what do they really think this organization is right now? I mean, are they caught up in euphoria of we did better than we were expected to this year?
And it doesn't seem like they are. So that's the positive.
And that's why I'm excited about this, because they didn't make moves that a team like the Jets would do of getting splashy names. The hell with the future. Like, let's do signings right now and everything. Let's trade away draft picks to get people in right now. They didn't do that. If they can keep their eye on it, they make an honest evaluation of where we are. Did we, overshoot our skis a little last year with our record and even winning a playoff game, and we're not really as far along as the fans think we are and what we saw? Or was this really the start of something, of a window that can ultimately lead to a Super Bowl window or not? That's going to be their biggest test, is what's their evaluation for this and how will they act accordingly going forward.
Still got to win some games in the division, Crank, right? Still
that's the biggest thing.
Well, I would say if the litmus test for this front office is whether or not they were, I guess, had like winner's blinders on last year, they passed it with flying colors, because at the trade deadline, they didn't make a trade. In fact, they traded away a first-round pick for extra picks. I mean, that is classic rebuilding mode. That's usually what teams on a fire sale do. Instead, they did that. The big acquisition was Isaiah Hodgins, which they spent nothing on. So, I mean,
who turned out to be fantastic.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think they handled, winning and rebuilding at the same time pretty much as good as you could. I don't know of any other instance where it's been better.
Right. Yeah. It's usually like other sports, and obviously in the NFL, it's usually you either go one way or the other. And if you try it, that means you're just literally a doggy paddling in the middle, and you're just not advancing.
Right. That's the worst thing you can be.
Right.
So let's do this. So we're on board. Let's consider the conversation. We're all on board with this 2 to 3 year window, right?
Right.
And I'll just pop this up on here, which leads you to basically free agency, right? Like, what were they going to do? Splashy names? Were they going to find some building blocks? Like, where are we in this? So, guys, after Jones and after Barkley, there's been 11 moves by the Giants. I'm going to get your opinion on it, right? Again, I'll go with the Okereke, Love, Nacho, Slayton signing, Feliciano moving on, Paris Campbell, Breida getting signed, Waller, and Gates going. So, Dan, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
Okereke's like a grand slam, or Okereke it's a grand slam. The guy wants to be here, told his agent he wants to be here, and the dude can play. You weren't on last week with us when we covered this. I'm assuming you love this move like the rest of us do.
Yeah, no, I obviously love that move, because he's exactly what the Giants are missing at a linebacker. Because you would see Dexter and Leo beat their guys, and then there was no guy washing up and cleaning up for them, and then it would be a 5 to 10, even dare I say 15-yard runs, when it should have been a loss of 1 or a minimal gain at best. So obviously, with him being able to go sideline to sideline, and what did you guys have? He had over 150 tackles last year, or something like that.
He can play.
Obviously, if he stays healthy, why not? It's like we made the comment. He's like a younger version of what Blake Martinez was a few years back. So if he's anything like that, obviously, once we lost Martinez 2 seasons ago to that injury, the defense was completely different and hasn't been.
By the way, before Martinez got here, they were 28th against the run.
Right.
And then in 1 year, Martinez brought them 10th against the run.
Exactly.
So we sucked before that too.
Right. So hopefully with that move is the first sign of that first move that you're like, all right, the linebacker core is healthy right there. Let's keep on building it. He's young enough, and let's keep on getting it to the point where we have depth at that position.
Cranky, Love, which was to me was again, I took a lot of heat for it, but and
Did
Dan
you
will
though?
Dan will back me up on this. Like, I love Julian Love for a lot of reasons, right? The duct tape kind of mentality. You know, he was a Thorpe Trophy finalist, played safety, played corner. Guy just led the team in tackle. The last safety to lead the team in tackles for the Giants was Landon Collins, and before Landon Collins, it was Antrell Roll. You don't really see that very much. So I was disappointed that he left because he got $6 million. The fans were under this assumption he was going to get 8 to 10, and we wanted to walk, right? So, Cranky, this is what I'm throwing this one at you because I want you to tell me what your thoughts are, not only on Love, but remember, McKinney brought in a new agent, at the end of the end of the season, basically saying this guy handles defensive backs and safeties because this cat's going to want to get paid $16 to $18 million at the top of the scale. And I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but he's only had one good year.
Right.
The one thing that fans always have to remember is that football, basketball, baseball, hockey are businesses first to these guys.
Right.
As much as we look at everything through the lens of a NFL fan and specifically a New York Giant fan, these guys are negotiating for their contracts that are going to set them up, their families up for the rest of their lives. And they're going to do what is ultimately
families.
Exactly. Legacy money forever for their families. They are not as interested in things that we consider important, like loyalty or, history, with an organization. They're looking at what's best to them. So looking at it at that lens, things are different. We are not privy to what goes on in negotiations. Why did he leave? It's not a simple question always of money. Negotiations could have gone bad. We don't know. And it might be something where it's just sometimes you just have to move on. So fans always think that, oh, we blew it, the Giants. Why didn't we bring him back? Free agency is ultimately the decision of the player. And, I get upset when guys don't want to come back. I take it as a personal offense. I never feel the same about somebody after they leave, but that is me being the biased fan saying that.
Yeah,
but
me too.
These guys are going to do what's best for them. And again, we don't know all the facts of the negotiation. It's sad a little bit that negotiations like this are always played in public.
Right.
Most deals you hear about for any negotiation for anything, usually it's after it's over. The city of New York just announced a 10-year deal with whatever to provide this for people. Oh, sounds great. You don't know how the negotiations work before. And if you heard every step of the way, you'd be either sick of it or just outraged at demands into what's happened. Unfortunately, with football, and like most all pro sports, you hear bits, you hear rumors, you hear what's leaked by either side, whether it's agents leaking information, whether it's friendly media leaking what the team wants them to hear. So, again, just because we want somebody, we want him back, doesn't mean he's coming back, because it's not our decision to make. And there are other reasons why they're not. So I don't know if that answered anything, but just a soapbox.
Were you in favor of Love going or staying? Like, were you did you want him back or did you not care?
I would have liked him back personally. That would have been my, I think that, you like to keep your core guys and build around your core guys. When you lose somebody that's a core guy, that's another replacement on top of all the other things you have to replace. So I would have liked them back personally.
Right. I'm with you.
Are we sure that Wink wanted him back?
Yeah. That's another point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true.
Another thing we're not privy to. We're not privy to those meetings, those, defensive meetings, position meetings, all these different things. Maybe he loved up. I didn't think he was a good fit. Maybe Wink didn't think he was a good fit. Those are things we'll never know.
I think we all kind of agree that he was great value, considering that he could kind of plug and play. I mean, when he had filled in for Jabril Peppers, man, I'm sure most of us were like, oh, Jesus Christ, Jabril Peppers is out. He came in there and played fine. I mean, There was not a huge drop off. He could kind of move around. He had a big pick in the Baltimore game. I would say probably the play of the game, although that was also a bad snap, etc.
Picking yards after the catch, pick and return too.
Sure.
We don't get those.
But I mean, I think when you look at him athletically and like his like he's 31 3/4-inch arms is like just these things are all just barely at the boundary of what Wink seems to look for. So it might just be a matter of is like, yeah, I like that he's here, but if I'm not really rushing to give him any money to stay. You know what I mean? Like we can do better in the draft. You know what I mean? That might be the mentality from Wink Martindale. I think the four of us would have liked him back, but if they're thinking that they could just upgrade him for way cheaper, then I think they should do it.
And they, Dan, and they also have, we interviewed him a couple weeks ago. They have Dane Belton ready to rock, and they have
McCain,
not McCain,
Pinnock.
Yeah. So they've got Pinnock, who's a pretty good player. And I think I'm a little biased because we interviewed him, but Dane Belton's a good dude. And I think he can make some. I mean, hey, look, he had 2 interceptions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't remember any rookie having 2 interceptions since probably Jason Sehorn, right? I mean, like, so I'm happy. Dan, like, I know we talked about it, but like, are you worried that McKinney goes?
See, the thing with McKinney, I think with McKinney, it's a weird situation with McKinney. Like you mentioned before, he really only had one real season that's just like, all right, this is why we drafted him in the second round. The rest of the time, he's either been hurt or just for whatever reason, the adjustments of him where he's playing, he doesn't look as good.
Or riding an ATV off into the mountains.
Yes, very unfortunate situation. But yeah, like with him, it's just a weird situation. Like he has the potential to be that high paid safety, but unfortunately for his sake, he's not worth it at the moment. So the Giants might be lucky with the past incidents with him that we can get him even cheaper than what he hopes and expects to get. So he's going to be a real interesting one because it's like
the tag Dan is 13.5.
I don't think we're going to tag him, but it's just one of those things. It's like the Giants past is like safeties and defensive tackles. We restock with them. We shuffle through them all the time. I want to see if Shane's like that because we don't know that yet.
But remember, in the NFL, this is a league that likes to pay for potential.
Right.
And even though he's had, the ATV thing, that's a fluke thing.
Right. I'm on the fluke thing as well.
He's still young enough that if they see the potential that we think he is of being great, someone's going to overspend for that. I mean, the number one story in the draft this year is, drafting Anthony Richardson, which is all potential. Not what we've seen so far. It's all potential. So
that's your boy.
That's my boy. Yeah, exactly. But my point is that don't discount just because, they haven't showed on the, maybe we might get him in a little bit of a discount. And that doesn't mean that's what his market is, to the outside world. There's going to be a defensive coordinator.
Very true.
That's my guy. And someone's going to offer.
It's going to be interesting with him. Because obviously, as you can see, when the season started before the bye week, when he got hurt, the defense was flying. He was the guy making the calls and everything. And it looked like everybody was gelling together and he was making the plays that are like, all right, we got X. He's all over the field. He could have easily been in the Pro Bowl or dare I say an All-Pro. I don't know who actually made it this year All-Pro wise, but like he was definitely in the running for us Giant fans to be like, all right, this is the guy we got in the second round. We traded up to get him. Yep. Let's hopefully another year. Hopefully we have to find a way to pay him. That's my method of like all these guys with the rebuild is like, all right, prove us that we have to pay you. That's my thought of it.
The good thing is the cap is going up next year again.
Exactly.
There'll be more money for these things. For some of these decisions won't be as difficult they were in 2022 or 2023. Right. So
Grump. Gonna throw you the curveball here because it's like you want to like he's almost like he's basically Julian Love on the offensive side of the ball. Tell me about Slayton because like same thing. Like you really root for this guy. You want him to do well. He makes the hard catch. He drops the easy catch. But 2 years ago he couldn't catch a cold. This year he had yards. He had some yak. Right. He had yards after the catch. He made some nice plays. And they bring him back, and I mean, they didn't pay the guy a lot of money. And what was the first thing he said when he signed his contract? Thanks for bringing back Daniel Jones. He deserved the money. He didn't even want to talk about himself. At his own press conference, talking about his contract, he took the time to basically make it about Daniel Jones. It was a classy move. What's your thought there?
Well, what he didn't mention is that allegedly he turned down more money to go elsewhere.
Right. That was the biggest part of it.
Yeah, Atlanta came calling with more money, and he wanted to stay here. And
he's from there, right? I'm almost positive.
He was an Auburn guy. I don't know where he grew up.
Yeah, but I'm almost positive he's from there.
I mean, it could be.
I have a computer right here.
There you go.
Look it up.
Yeah.
Hey Siri.
I'll look.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when we look at the player, he has a specific role in this offense. Was he the team leading receiver last year in receiving yards?
Yeah, it's pretty much his whole career with us. He's been the leader.
He was the number one. But again, like you're also talking about a bunch of them between 400 and 800 yards, right?
I understand that, but also remember he was not even getting practice reps for
he
several weeks at the beginning of the year.
He is a Georgia boy, so that's even more shocking.
Yeah, so I mean, he essentially was really only active and playing in like 12 or 13 games this year. He really was not considered and didn't get meaningful game reps for the first couple of weeks, and he still managed to be the leading receiver on this team. Granted, it was like 750 yards, and granted, he was playing, we're comparing his stats against, the Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James of the world, but this is a playoff team that made the playoffs, won a wild card game, and he was the leading receiver on it. So that's not nothing, right? We all agree on that. His biggest problem isn't anything else but hands, right? It's just hands. He
basically cost us the Washington game at home. That was basically.
And it always seems like the easy catch too, guys. Like he makes some. Who he reminds me of in a way, and he wasn't my favorite player, but he has this Evan Ingram thing where if you throw the out and up down the sideline, he makes this crazy great catch, but you drag him across the field when there's no one on him, and he just clunks the ball right to him. It's like almost like these guys can catch vertical, but they can't catch horizontal.
The problem with Slayton is he's a good receiver to have on your team. That is the second, third, dare I say, fourth guy on the team. And he would be even more of a weapon if he was exactly that. And I've been saying that for the last 4 years, and unfortunately, he's our number one target. So it's even more glaring, and it's just like, all right, he is what he is, but we deserve so much more than what he is, unfortunately. It's just like, thank you for what you're doing, but like, we appreciate this is not you, but it's frustrating. But hopefully, eventually, he becomes our third or second or third guy.
He'll fill that role pretty easily because as a number three, he's perfect.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So I mean, I think the big thing here is the deal, right? It's just the money. Sorry, 1 second. So I think people balk at the $12 million number, but again, this is another one where it's really loaded in the Giants' favor. This is really just a 1 year, $6 million deal, right? Mm-hmm. The team option to cut. I mean, if he has another year where as now as the 3 or the 4, the clutch catch is being dropped, you pretty much guarantee that he will not be here in 2024.
They will get better.
I think
talent
it's really
too.
This is his shot to be the number 3, number 4. I would say he's already the number 3, probably behind Waller and maybe even Hodgins at this point, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely 100%. And you know what's interesting, Grump, is like I pulled up his 10,000 foot view stats, right? Rookie year 740, 2020 751, 2021 339, 339 when he couldn't catch anything. And then rebounds again with 724. Like, if that's your third receiver and he's good for 700 yards plus and 3-4 touchdowns, it's gold.
Against quarterback 1 and quarterback 2. Now, if he's playing against nickel guys or something, it might be different. The thing that Slayton and Jones is interesting to me is that I criticized pretty deeply on our show the front office about they were getting rid of guys pretty quickly for not being their guys. And, I'm on the record, ad nauseum talking about Kadarius Toney, for example. But these are 2 guys that we all assumed were going to be gone. Grump mentioned that, Slayton wasn't even getting reps with the regular team in camp last year.
Yeah.
We all assumed.
It was the weirdest thing.
We all assumed, it was just kind of that same thing of like, Kadarius Toney not getting like 4 snaps in game 1 or something, but they not so much what these guys did, but the change of opinion from the front office gives me hope for this front office that it's they are open to what they have. And to me, that's very important. They're not just rigid guys. We want our guys, and that's that. They were willing to take a longer view with guys like with Slayton and Jones, and they were rewarded by bringing them back. So that made some of the, not the huge questions I had about this front office and this coaching staff, but questions I did have, I scratched my head, are dissipating because of moves like this.
Well, one, of course, thank you. I've got like 55 comments. Everything's flying in here in the room. One, again, thank you for watching another episode of the Giants Rush podcast. I can't thank you guys enough, but I do want to say hello to, I can't keep up with all you guys, but I see Jay, I see Independent Tuto, Chris, I see Jay, I see you, Joe, I see Tom, Mason, I see Darius, I see all you guys. I always like to give you guys a shout out for hanging out. I see you, Mark B, I see you, Jake, I see you, Mark, all the way from the Caribbean. We appreciate you always stopping in, Peter. Oh yeah, we get Caribbean, Italy. We get people from all over the place.
Yeah, Tuto always gives us a massive salute from Italy, so I'm gonna give one right back.
Tuto's awesome.
Buongiorno.
Yep, Brad. I see all you guys. So thanks for coming and hanging out with us. Let's shift gears on this one here. Grump, tell me about Feliciano, because I really, to me, I'm glad he's gone. I don't care what he brought to the table. Like, I know he was a stopgap kind of guy. I have no love for the guy. I have no hate for the guy. I'm just like, we need a badass center, and I don't care if he comes in the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth round. I need a mauler. You know what I mean? I need something, and he wasn't it. So real quick, if you could just give me your quick snapshot on Feliciano going to the 49ers.
Bro, you are speaking my language. I've been saying it for a while now. Cranky fans are probably sick of hearing it, but I truly believe the best offensive lines have a solid left tackle, a good right tackle, and a solid center. The guards can be whatever. If you have those three, if you've got a center that can make the calls and make sure that everybody knows what they're doing and cannot be a liability right up the middle, gives your quarterback somewhere to step up in the pocket. If your tackles can allow your quarterback to drop back, I think you're good with the guards. Your quarterback should be able to evade a guard screwing up here and there. And God knows Glowinski had his moments. But I'm with you. John Feliciano, I think, was a good guy to bring in. You consider the center situation that we were in last year. We had none. Nick Gates is coming up. It's good for him. He went to Washington. I'm still not sure how long he's going to actually be able to play on that leg.
Yeah.
And going into last year, I thought there was a no shot he was going to play at all. So they had to bring in somebody. They brought in the guy they were familiar with. I think they brought in a guy with a chip on his shoulder as well, right? He was the guy who thought he could be a starting center and didn't get the shot. So this was his shot. And I think he did a pretty good job with what he was able to do. It's his first year as a starting center. I thought he was scrappy. I think he did what he had to do. Overall, he's not a very good center. He's not. He's okay. He's fine. If he were our first guy off the bench in the event that our starting center was down, I would be 100% behind it. I think he's perfect in that role because he can go in for 3-4 games and not embarrass you, and you'd be fine, and you can still continue your playoff run, etc. I'm fine with him leaving.
I'd feel finer with him leaving if you already had the replacement already on the roster. I know, center becomes a need in the draft, and we all have our boards and everything, but until that guy is actually on the roster, now we have no center. And we would like more of a mauler. We want more of a badass, but until you get someone else, he would have done good, but now we don't have anything. So I'm sure that will be obviously rectified, but right now I don't know what we're getting to replace yet. So I just get a little nervous about things like that.
And that was the thing in both of our group chats. It was like, all right, if Gates is gone, that means Feliciano got there. And then when Feliciano went to San Fran, we're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do now? So definitely going through the draft. So we're like we got caught with our pants down kind of with that situation, but hopefully we plug and play in the draft.
Well, Dan Bredesen had an interview, I think was either yesterday or this morning.
Okay. I missed that.
With Jordan, my good friend Jordan.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that facetiously. And Jordan was asking him these dorky questions, and he basically said, look, and he literally came out and said, Jordan, here's the deal. They haven't told me that I'm the center, but my responsibility is right guard, center, left guard. He's like, that's what I am told I need to be able to play. And he's like, that's my role. And like Jordan would ask him another question. He would say the same thing. He'd be like, Jordan, I don't know anything more. Right now, they have not said anything differently. Be able to play right guard, center, left guard. And there's a clip of it somewhere on Twitter. I can post it. You know,
it's also March 25th. Again, you know, the situation is going to change. Maybe the rest of free agency, maybe the draft, maybe a trade. We don't know. But as of right now, I mean, the question is, you know, what's your role? And right now, that's your role. I'm sure it will change by the time we get to opening weekend.
Yeah, like Jordan was trying to be all like, you know, Inspector Clouseau, and I was like, dude, give the guy a break. It's the middle of March, you know. I'm like,
it's just Jordan being Jordan.
Yeah. All right. Dan, throw this one at your way. Give me your quick clip on Paris Campbell. If you saw the note, one of our guys on our team, Grump and Cranky, one of our guys, Chris, posted this really cool stat today that Paris Campbell has never played with the same quarterback or offensive coordinators back-to-back years on any team he's ever been on, college or pros. So I'm like, either this guy is a quarterback eater or, you know, or he's just the most unlucky soul on the planet.
I'm leaning towards unlucky.
Fitting well the quarterback.
Yeah. They'll become best friends. Honestly, he has something. He has that breakout potential that we're all praying and salivating over. Pretty much anybody. If you have a warm body that can play wide receiver, if you break out, we'll treat you like a god, basically. So he obviously has the speed. We've seen him have that good season a couple seasons ago. This year he had a decent year as well, considering the situation they had with Matt Ryan and then going with the quarterback carousel of who was the other quarterback from Texas? Him, and then they had Foles.
Sam Ellinger?
Ellinger, yeah.
Yeah,
Ellinger. And then they had Foles for a couple games. So obviously it's like, all right, this guy has to hopefully gets lucky at some point in his career to get a guy that is the quarterback for more than one season with him.
All right.
So I'm being positive. Hopefully he breaks out.
All right, Crank, I'm going to drop the big one on you, Cranky, because I want to hear, this is the big bomb. So, you know, we're basically covering every move that was made after Jones, Barkley, and Shepard, I guess, too. But the biggest move that we've made, of course, is Darren Waller. I mean, whether you like the move or you don't like the move, and I don't know anyone that doesn't like the move. When this guy's healthy, he's a top 5, maybe a top 3 tight end, right? I mean, the dude can ball. But there's always that but, right? He hasn't had a healthy season in 2 years. He came out and said, 1, he wanted to be here, and 2, he was going to really work hard on changing some habits, you know, that he has, like different type of workout habits and work on his body, you know, to stay healthy. Give me your rundown on Waller, and of course, don't forget to comment on, can he be our number 1, because that is a conversation that is out there. I'm not saying I'm projecting that, but there are people saying that, you know, Waller could be like a Kittle and he could have 1,000 yards receiving. So I'm gonna drop that in your lap.
Yeah, this is the part where Grump takes off his headphones because he's sick of me talking about tight ends. So
we got a lot in common. I do the same thing.
I have said it ad nauseum again. I'm using that word more than once. So if you're playing Grumpy, Cranky fan says the same words over and over again. Bingo, that's on there. I've been saying for the longest time that, to me, having a special tight end is one of the most unique positions in football, one of the hardest positions to defend in football. I mean, just look at our track record of trying to stop elite tight ends, whether it's in our division, our conference, wherever. We can't.
We can't stop bad ones.
Yeah.
Who is that cowboy tight end that just murder us all the time?
You mean Jason Invisible Witten?
No,
not Witten. I know who you're talking about.
Novacek?
No,
not Novacek. No. Like in the last couple of years. Like,
yeah,
is it Schultz?
It's got to be Schultz.
Darren Schultz?
No, it was the backup to the backup, and he had basically Boston Scott for the Cowboys against us. And like one game he had like 3 touchdowns, and the next he had like 2. And then the next season he was gone. Like in 2 seasons he was gone.
That memory is probably behind a wall of alcohol poisoning for me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, but my point is though that I've been salivating to have a difference-making tight end on this team. Someone that, Jeremy Shockey without the bad attitude. Just someone like that. And this is the potential. I mean, I think people are a little too quick to say, "Oh, we've upgraded from the trade is Kadarius Toney for Waller, and Kadoni was hurt all the time." But this is the potential. There is a medium risk, but there's a very high reward potential. And this is a guy that I think could absolutely be, leading this team in receptions, maybe even yardage. I mean, until we prove that this can be a big play offense, designed to be a big play offense, to have, 20, 25 yard more pass plays, I think you're going to see a lot of throws targeted to him, in the seam, over the middle, possession receptions. I am so happy we got a guy that can make a difference like that in that position. And I just hope he stays healthy, because it's like you said, if he's right, he's one of the 3 best tight ends in the league.
I'm going to pop this comment up on here, because here's the best part about it is Independent says it, and it's medium risk. The contract was amazing. It really is.
Health-wise.
Yeah. I mean, the guy walked in the door and they restructured his contract.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 minutes he was here, I was still thinking he was getting a locker and they restructured his deal.
My point about medium risk is the fact that if he has these various injuries again and he's out more than he plays, but with the same reason we wanted Kadarius Toney out of here, then all of a sudden we gave up some draft capital for him. And
it's not about the contract anymore. That's not the risk. You traded away a draft pick. If you get somebody hurt in return, then you got nothing. All you did was you spent money on somebody that's not there.
And again, I don't want to put him. I don't want to put him like in bubble wrap to make sure he's never gonna get hurt again. But there is, there will be in the back of your mind, is that, oh no, is he going to be out this week or something, or is he going to be gone for 2 to 4 weeks? So until he proves that he can be consistently healthy and be on the field all the time, I'm going to put it slight to moderate risk.
All right, I'm going to shift gears, Grump, and jump into your wheelhouse here.
Alcoholism.
So we don't have a center. Our wide receivers are pretty good, but they're all 2s and 3s and 4s, right? So
Yes.
We all know that they're outside of Adoree Jackson. There's not a cornerback on this team that can play more than 3 games without injuring or breaking something. Draft wise, right? And it's early. I know we still got 5 weeks to the draft.
Exactly a month.
Yeah. Oh, it's exactly. Oh, it's right. So it's a 27th. Thank you, Dan. 4 weeks. There'll be a lot of big boards that will change and all this good stuff. In your opinion, Grump, does it say, hey, we haven't, like to Cranky's saying before about the Jets, right? If you're the Jets, you're making a bunch of splashy moves and big names, and the Giants aren't doing that, and they're trying to build it right. Does this kind of lead you to believe that a receiver's in play? Or are we just basically saying our defensive backs are so bad, how can we not draft a corner?
Man, I don't know. So I've been doing a weekly thing with the Entertainer where we're kind of going through the draft and all the different options.
I've watched you guys do a great job.
Well, thank you. It's all 3 of those guys are in play, and I think what they've done, what the true brilliance of this regime, which I don't even think is that brilliant, but for whatever reason, the prior regimes didn't do this. They've set themselves up with a bunch of smaller moves for low money-ish, right? To kind of cover as many holes as possible so that those 3 big things, it's not clear cut where we're going right away. Yes, it's clear that all 3 of those positions will be drafted, but we're not stuck. They've gathered. The only one where they're stuck right now is because Feliciano left. They have to get a center. So that means round 1 or round 2, I would be really surprised if they waited till round 3. Round 1 or round 2 is centers coming off the board for them. That's just got to happen.
So let me ask you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I got to ask you though, because that one's so interesting. I didn't expect you to say that, because to me, like when I look at like linemen, right? Like now again, I could guess Pouncey and a couple of these other guys, Mangold. They were ones and twos. But if I had to pull off 32 centers off the board, I'd have to think that more than half of them, 3/4 of them, are third and fourth round guys. You really feel that if a center's got to be round 1, round 2 to contribute right away, you don't think it's good enough?
My correction. I meant day 1, day 2. I said so that would include round 3. I'm sorry. Okay. Yes, that's my
right,
nomenclature.
Cool. My bad. I got hit in the head.
No, you're right though. No,
in college, so.
You're absolutely right. And I would say in normal draft classes, the first center you're even considering is a late second round guy,
unless he's that guy.
Yeah, and this year I would say has a couple of those guys. I would say I got to see him in person. John Michael Schmitz is that guy. I really do think that is that guy where round 2, if he's there and the Giants are picking 100%, I'd be considering him at 25, seeing how the board is, knowing what you know about other teams and other owners. Obviously we only know what we know. Yeah. If you're Joe Shane, you hopefully know more than me. Good God. But yeah, center is the only one where they're pigeonholed. They have to walk away after the draft. They have to walk away with a guy that they have penciled in as a starter. I mean, wherever you value that based on the guys, that's what they have to walk away with. I mean, me personally, I don't really want to be penciling in a starter that's going to be a day 3 guy. If Feliciano were still here, I'd be on board with a round 4, round 5 guy, but he's not.
Hey, Grump,
let me hang on, Cranky, 1 sec. Dan, jump in on this for a second then.
Right.
Because Nick Gates got drafted as a guard, not a center, and they converted him. Yeah. How do we not know Azudu's not getting trained right now to move the set? I'm just throwing that out there because Azudu happens to be a young guard. Or Nick, again, I'm going to say this, and I'm sure you guys are going to hit me with something heavy when I say it. But like Lemieux, Azudu, like how do we know that?
Even Bredesen, I know we joked about it before. Maybe we can go after Cranky's guy, the guard from Florida. Would that?
You just told I was actually just going to jump in and say I've actually read some things and heard some reports that they could possibly move him to center.
Oh, okay. That's the first I'm hearing about that.
Yeah, you're talking about the guard from Florida.
Yeah, the right guard. But he didn't play one down at center at Florida. But I saw 2 different things saying that he could be a potential move to center. But someone with his talent at right guard, maybe that's something you get, and you maybe if you have to, as a temporary stopgap, you have him at center and get him back to guard once you get more talent behind it, or
maybe. I mean, so look, here's the thing: when it comes to offensive linemen, to me, center is the hardest thing to figure out. Right. And the reason why is that I think so much of what you evaluate as a scout happens here. You know what I mean? As opposed to every other spot on the line, that center has to know a lot more. And I think that interviews and things like that have a much heavier weight. And that's all shit there's nothing I can do about that. You know what I mean? So
if he's not cerebral, he's not going to be able to handle that position at the next level.
Well, it's the cerebral. It's also the mentality, man. Like you look, Nick Gates, that's if you had told me on his draft night that Nick Gates was, would he be a center? The answer is I have no idea, because I think what made him a center was his work ethic and his intelligence. He was a versatile guy that could do a lot of stuff. There's no way to really know that unless you talk to the guy, you get a feel for him. So it's totally possible that one of these guards could eventually be a center, or maybe there's just no way for me to know. I think that's something that GMs and scouts, they have to do their due diligence, that extra work to see if he's got the brains to make that switch, because I think that's the biggest trait, I guess, you could look for in a center, because otherwise they're just guards.
Exactly.
So Cranky, and I'm Joe Shane calls you up and says, need some help, Cranky. I'm on the board here at 25, and there's these 3 guys I like. One plays center, one plays wide receiver, one plays corner. Cranky, where am I going? What should I do with this pick? What's your advice to GM Joe?
Well, the first thing, I'd fire him for asking for my opinion. I tell him to go. I tell him to call Grump, actually, but and I'm going to steal from the Grump playbook of drafting, where
I love it. Can I get access to this Grump playbook? Is there a subscription?
Sure, very easy. Subscribe to the Just Giants podcast on YouTube.
Bingo.
Wait, but I've already done that.
All right, well, I'll give you a little secret then. This is one of the axioms of the football Grump. all things considered equal, you draft the best player and you let it sort out by the position. We are not in a position right now we need to reach for anyone just to fill a spot. I think if it's a question of there's 3 guys on the board and one's a wide receiver, one's a linebacker, one's a center, the guy they think is the best fit, the best meets their scouting requirements and everything, the head test, all that's who you draft.
Who's Cranky drafted?
I draft Anthony Richardson, but no, I'm just kidding.
That's a homer call. You're not allowed to make that one. Come on.
Okay, then I would really. I don't think he's going to be around down there, but if he is, we just mentioned him, Osiris Torrance, and again, it might be a homer call, but this guy coming out of Louisiana, everybody when he transferred to Florida was like, this guy's a complete badass. Well, let's see what he can do at the SEC level. And he was fantastic. That Gator offensive line was really, really good. Just watch the tape of the running backs that we had and how we could run the ball. Yes, Anthony Richardson can make an offensive line look better because of his ability to move around and stuff, but that was a fantastic offensive line, and he was a rock at offensive guard.
All right. So that's your call. I call him GM Joe. If GM Joe makes the call to Cranky, that's where you're going. All right.
Well, I mean, yeah. When I defer draft questions to the Grump because that is his forte and his expertise, but that's my homer pick because I need a new jersey since I have to throw my Kadarius Toney jersey.
Oh, yeah. That definitely hurts every time you have a
2
jersey.
days. 2 days after the Amex guarantee for a year for your jersey replacement expired, they trade his ass. Bad timing for me.
Yeah, no doubt.
See, that's the fun thing about being in the group chat with Cranky is all you have to say is Kadarius Toney, and he'll go off on a rampage for the next 3 hours.
Yeah.
So,
you got him hook, line, and sinker for about an hour.
Oh, that's great. All right, I'll remember that come the season when we're, when we're throwing lobbing grenades out there because the Giants are losing by 25 in the first quarter. Grump, tell me then. And I'm only running with this scenario because Cranky's in Boston. I believe it or not, and Dan knows this, and even the rest of my team know this. Like I can't stand small receivers. Like I think Wan'Dale Robinson, as much as he's a great kid, you'd let your daughter marry him, the whole thing. Like I had to do the research. Well, fair enough. But he wasn't always at Kentucky, my friend. So, like, I had to do the research, Grump. I went all the way back to 2000, okay? And I looked at every 5'8", 170, 180-pound receiver. And only 3 of them, okay, and this is a while ago when I did it, when he got drafted last year, only 3 of them had legit careers. Like Lockett, and of course, Tyreek Hill,
Antonio Brown.
Yeah, exactly. Most of these guys, and even he was 190 pounds. I'm talking about the 5'8" guy that's 170 pounds, 180 pounds, right? I'm not a fan of drafting those little guys. Most of the guys in the last 20 years, 21 years have been special teams players. They're kickoff, punt returners. They played 2-3 years. And, hey, look, it's a violent game. My question to you, Grump, is on the receiver. I've come around a little bit on Zay Flowers. I'm starting to come around on him. He's a little bit Steve Smithish. He's like 5'10". He's like, he's in the 180s, right? Like I asked Crank a second ago, is let's just say right now, it is receiver or corner. Let's just say we're at that stage. Where are you at, and who are you? Who do you like? Like, it doesn't have to be Zay Flowers, but who do you like at that receiver? Give me your top receiver. Give me your top DB. Or maybe you're not ready. Maybe you're still in the middle of the.
No, I'm all for it. Yeah, I can do this. So I actually think, the most likely scenario is that if I were drafting on draft night, it's probably going to end up being a corner. And the reason why is because I think there's a huge clump of wide receivers in the second day that are all really close and all really good, and you can get similar production out of all of them, and it would help us a lot. Whereas in day one, where I value guys, I think there's like maybe 3 guys that I would really spend that pick on, and I think all of them are going to be gone.
Right.
Okay.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have an absolute love affair with Zay Flowers. He is my top rated wide receiver. I'm glad you mentioned him. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good. I feel a little bit better now.
Yeah, I mean, look, you make a good point about 5'8" guys. He's 5'10" though, and I do think that does make a difference.
And that's why I even started paying attention to him, watching the film work, because at 5'8", I just turn you off. I don't.
There's very few. Anymore. I mean, it's a good point. I would say it may not be as helpful as you think to go back in the last 20 years and start comparing, because I think the game from 20 years ago is vastly different. I mean, you look at those 90s Cowboys offenses, that shit just don't work anymore. No one does it. What they've done here, they care a lot less about height and they care a lot more about separation. Can you catch the ball? Can you get open? And once you have the ball in your hands, can you do something special? Of course, then you're not getting rid of the are you going to get up once you get hit part of it, but that's where you start picking and selecting your special guys that are 5'8", 5'10". And colleges, for a start, they're getting these guys because in the college game, getting in space is everything, and having the fastest guy is everything. So there's tons of these guys out there for you to sift through. There's not a whole lot of 6'5", 4'4" running receivers that are Calvin Johnson. They come out once in a while, and when they're there, 100% go get them. But
they're not going to be at 25 either.
Oh no, they're going to be in the
so
maybe.
Right.
And
that's a question I have actually. Does this group think there's still a potential we would trade up to get someone that we're targeting? I mean, now with the trade with Waller, we lost some picks. You know,
I mean, we still have 7 though. We still have 10.
Yeah, we have 10.
And it doesn't feel like their MO. You know,
no,
like
it
you were
doesn't.
talking about. I don't know, Cranky, if you said it or Grump, you said it, but there's no desperation here.
Yeah,
the wide receiver
Yeah, I don't feel it
is stacked. Dan, right? How many? We got 7 wide receivers, 8 wide receivers in the room right now.
Right.
It doesn't feel like they're desperate enough to do that. I want to keep coming back to what you said before, Cranky, about flashy picks. That feels like a Jets move, right? Like I got to go up and get a splash.
Well, unless they fall in love with somebody that may not, don't confuse splash, a name, with somebody that they just love and they want him to be the cornerstone of a wide receiver room or something.
Right. Yeah.
And there's a number of different reasons they might move up. I mean, it wouldn't really have been considered a splash move to trade up to get Laramie Tunsil. Would it have been?
No.
I mean, the way he was tumbling in the draft, I would say that's not a splash move. That's everyone's being stupid right now. I need to get him right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then we draft Eli Apple. Or was it Flowers? I forgot. They're all blending together.
But thanks.
That was the Eli Apple one. That's the one we were at Grump. That's when we were at the Meadowlands that happened. Yeah, that was Apple.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, like
good times.
like that's the good thing about our new regime is they're keeping everything close to the chest. So that's the great thing about it. Not like Gettleman and then the last couple of years of Reese was just telegraphing everybody of like, oh, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. All right, and then teams dry it up, and they're like, oh, what are we going to do now? Great. Awesome. Great.
Speaking, Dan, that's a great segue. I don't know if you guys are fans of Pat McAfee or not, or I don't know if you guys watch the show. I happen to have, Crank says no, Grump says yes.
I'm a boomer, so no.
Okay. Well, here's something you guys might enjoy. I just happened to have, I had a meeting cancel this morning, and I was sitting around twiddling my thumbs. I dropped on YouTube, and they had on as a special guest. It's normally, like, I guess you want to call it the sidekick or whatever. Usually it's AJ Hawk, right? Well, he was out today at the last moment, and the surprise guest was JJ Watt, right? And not only is JJ Watt a super cool dude, and he embodies the NFL, like, he makes them look good by him being the golden boy, right? But to your point, Dan, you know what he said today? He said, nothing leaks unless they want it to leak. He said, if you have a regime that you don't know what they're doing, that is done on purpose. So if you don't know where they are and you're not getting any feel for it, he's like, look, he goes, I love Shefty and I love all those guys digging for every piece of info they can have. That's their job. He's like, you're going to have regimes that just have a conversation between the player, the agent, the organization. No one's talking. And then they went as far to say is when he went to Arizona, he had all his mail and all the stuff that the Cardinals were sending him to his neighbor's house. So he got nothing sent to his house because he didn't want the mailman to be like looking at these crates full of, of equipment they were sending him, you know what I mean? And stuff, we started a new job.
Right there.
Yeah. You know how like we start a new job and you get an onboarding kit that's got a backpack and a computer in it. Well, they're sending him hammer strength and, machines, and they're sending him, all this great stuff. So Dan, if
mailman couldn't put that together as a neighbor.
Yeah, well, remember JJ Watt living out in Arizona. Probably his neighbors, like, some pretty famous people too. So it was probably like you know what I mean. So they're probably like, whatever, JJ. But my point is, and I'm rambling. I apologize. My point is that nothing leaks, Dan, unless they unless it's part of the plan.
I don't want to bring up his name. I'm not suing it for him. But like today with Mara, he brought up Odell. Obviously, I think that's part of the whole. Yeah, I think it's part of the old. All right, I brought it up. It's up to Dayball and Shane. I'm wiping my hands from it.
You know what?
I'm done. Without him.
I brought you on this team, Dan, because I love you to death. And then you go and you drop the OBJ, and I'm like,
can I ask you a question?
I said it in the right
what is
way.
Dan's cap number? Can you just cut him right now? I mean, maybe it's a dead cap hit on you.
All right,
sometimes you maybe need to cut me
already. Free agency
Dan,
already.
we might have to come up to my office. We have to have a conversation.
This is more of a marathon. Bringing it up today. I'm not talking about OBJ. I'm talking about you talking about things being leaked.
Yeah,
and I think in that tone of way, it's like us being like, we looked into the Odell thing. We love Odell, but he's too rich for us right now. And I think that was a nice. All right, we're done. There's nothing else we can really do. He knows.
I'll back that up. I agree with you.
That's all we can do.
Or do you play 4D chess and pretend like you're interested, drive up the cost for other teams, and
I think that's what we're really gonna do.
Yeah.
Is that though with Mara? Do you find that's a Mara thing? I don't think that's a Mara play.
Usually not, but for Odell, he's always been the guy that, I like Odell. My grandkids love Odell. It was really Dave Gettleman who really traded him. I gave him a full autonomy to do it. And then today it's up to Shane and Dave's for doing it. We all know how much I love OBJ. So I think if you study what Mara has said the last almost decade now about OBJ, it's the same trend.
You know what's funny about that, Dan? His father said the same thing about Shockey.
Yo, his dad, Wellington loved Shockey.
Loved Shockey.
And I did too.
Loved Shockey. Had nothing but great things to say about Shockey. And if you listen to the story, I don't remember who told us. We were interviewing one of the guys. I don't know if it was Deal. I don't remember who it was, Dan. Maybe it was Deal. I don't remember. Maybe it was Richie Soyber. I don't remember who it was. One of them said that, like, when he passed away, like, instructions were to make sure they
that's
invited
the famous story. It was him and Tiki and a few other guys they went up to his house for, like, the final, minutes of his life, unfortunately. Tiki always brings it up, too, and Shockey was one of the guys. So
I'm going to be honest, in my Mount Rushmore of Giants who I've hated the most in my lifetime,
Shockey.
Danny Cannell would be number one. Because I hate that human being with a passion. And
why?
He's a Knoll. He sucked. And he's stupid. OBJ and Shockey are probably right below them. I hated Jeremy Shockey. Again, he's a classic Kane. That's a big thing you get on my shit list for. But that guy was all about himself. I mean, people forget, that game we got screwed in that 49er, that NFC division game in 2002. People forget his antics during that game. The 15-yard penalty for throwing the ice in the stands, dropping that one touchdown pass, doing things like he's all image. And I know people loved him, but I hated him from day one, and I'll never respect that guy.
Craig, bring up Chris R's comment about the ex-girlfriend, because I have the perfect analogy that I've used in the group chats perfectly. So Odell is basically that hot girl or male, if you're a female or go that way, that you're at the bar, you're getting drunk, and you see her, but everybody, you don't care. But your friends and everybody's like, bro, don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know. I might do it. And then you end up doing it, and you're like, why did I do that? That is the epitome of Odell right now. You know what he's going to do. He's the bad baggage, and you're still stupid enough not going to do it. So hopefully the Giants listen to their friends.
Listen, you
like
can't.
that.
No one can tell me that cat's not going to.
And we've all been there. All four of us have been there.
Yeah. I remember all the stories. He'd be like, throwing me the ball, throw me the ball, throw me the ball. Like Eli would be like, okay, I'll throw you the ball. He's gonna do the same thing to Joe's. Throw me the ball. I'm the only one that's open.
Number one, the guy is already on the wrong side of 30. Number two, he's had several significant injuries. Number
2
three,
ACLs in 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is a guy that was on a Super Bowl winning team. They didn't want him back. He goes through this whole tour. Nobody signed him. That tells me he's probably injured, and all of a sudden he's ready to play again. No, thank you. And he's a cancer. I mean, does this team that's trying to rebuild, trying to get its own culture with this coaching staff, need this guy coming in where every single day it's going to be a headline, it's going to be exhaustion. It's like politics with certain politicians we have. It's exhausting after every single day with this. Do we want that on this team?
You know what, Cranky? And I think, and I apologize for saying this in advance because I'm sure you're not going to. I hope you had a good time hanging out with us because you're not going to like what I have to say, but I think it has a lot to do with like Tony. Tony was a headline every day, was how he handled the press, what equipment didn't work, what type of COVID strain he had this time, what tattoo he was getting, how bad his rap music was out. Every day was a headline, but the guy for him, he didn't produce it all except for over 3 games over 2 years. So like they couldn't even make an excuse for that guy. He just, didn't have football as priority number one, and they knew it. So I'm not trying to
see. I don't buy that. I mean, again, because of all this stuff going on, that doesn't mean his priority. The only reason he got traded is because he wasn't available to play. I mean, this is the guy. I never heard that one time in Florida that wasn't his priority to play. And it's a guy that came through who barely played as a freshman, worked, became a starter because he was a pure gadget guy as a freshman and a sophomore. By the time he was a senior, he was a legitimate number one receiver on that team, on an SEC
team.
But
Florida's not New York, though, Cranky. I mean, people change when they get to New York.
You want to go into some of the chat rooms I'm in for Florida? You tell me where it's more heat on a coach.
I'm not saying that stuff doesn't happen, but we all know that New York, the town that doesn't sleep, can change people, pretty quickly.
I think it's money. I think New York probably doesn't help, but anytime there's an infusion of money and you remember Kadarius Toney was a quarterback in high school. So it was a huge adjustment for him to even be a legit receiver by the time he was a senior.
And Toney was so frustrating because he could have easily been our number one guy, and then whatever with the injury, and then it's just like unfortunate. It's just like I think that's what really gets everybody more angry about
the potential.
I can see the Odell hive is just already furious with me in the comments. So Jay Ferries, the unfollow is the button next to the like. Go ahead and hit it. Seriously?
No, I mean,
no, I'm kidding, but
I don't know.
It's really weird how the same people that would be in the anti-Tony camp are all in the for Beckham camp. Again, another Venn diagram where it seems like the same people who are trying to defend OBJ are the first ones who say get rid of Tony.
Yeah, I think. Well, again, I think there's a lot of different variables there. One is Beckham produced overall, and Tony did it. 2, the other side of the coin is we didn't win with Beckham. We didn't win with Tony. That's the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin was Odell was for the first.
And I didn't mean to turn this into an Odell.
No, but this is great, seems like but here's the thing, though. I'm going to counter that.
Every week. I don't even try to do this.
How long was Beckham? How long has he been in the league?
It's going to be.
Has he ever legitimately made the playoffs? I guess
that
the
one time.
Browns made it once.
Yeah, and they went against Green Bay. The Giants played Green Bay and choked.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay.
But he was probably hurt for the Brown one. I don't remember him in the Brown
But
one.
Kadarius Toney just finished his second year. I mean, if you want to put that same standard on him, then there's no Phil Simms with the Giants. Because if you remember, the first couple of years of his career, he never played. He was always hurt as well.
Yeah.
Like with Kadarius Toney,
it's a different game.
With Toney, it's just like I want to in a couple years when the book comes out or like whatever, either side, and you're just like, okay, that makes sense because it was the oddest thing for whatever reason from the minute he got here until the minute he got traded. It just something between the two just never clicked. And it's really unfortunate because we could obviously use that guy's talent. It wasn't like we had the 99 Rams on our wide receiving core.
And I don't want anyone to think I have any Tony axe to grind. I was just comparing to Beckham that they were headlines every day. It was like both guy, good or bad, gives you a headline every day.
I would also say headlines every day seems to be a wide receiver thing as a whole. If you go back to the NFL in the last 15, 20 years, how many wide receivers are the guys that are always making noise for something, for being prima donnas, for being
Antonio Brown for one. Thankfully, we haven't been that bad.
And media loves the wide receivers, and they focus on them because, like, we could easily back in the day. Let's go back to 2016. We could have easily had an article from the Post of the Daily News about Odell Beckham taking a shit, and that's probably true. That's how crazy it was. To the degree of everything
away from Larry Fitzgerald, and Julio Jones and Calvin Johnson, but it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Hey, Jay Farias, I love you, man. You can go back and hit the like button again. It's all cool.
So I didn't even mean to bring Odell back, but I we're talking about more so of Mara's talking about.
Guys, so we covered a lot of stuff. Where can our guys that follow us and are participating, where can they find you guys? Because I know you guys, you record at different times and stuff like that. Where is the best place that they can find the podcast? If you guys don't mind, tell them about the Just Giants podcast. That'd be great.
So ours is on YouTube as well. You can just go ahead and look up Just Giants. It's got a pretty sweet logo. It's got like a circle with the trophy, the Lombardi trophy, but it's got the microphone on the top. It's pretty sweet. Designed it myself.
Nice.
Yeah. So Just Giants on YouTube. If you prefer the audio versions for work or whatever reason, it's on just about any platform where you can get it.
That's when I listen.
Look at our faces. That's a good enough reason why you should have.
I know. Behan definitely listens. The audio one comes on at 5 a.m, and he's got comments before the YouTube one's even up at 9:30.
Grump's like, you actually listen to my podcast? I'm like, dude, I love you guys.
Yeah. I was going to say, because I usually try to listen to like someone else each week. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like I'll drive my son to school, and then in between like 7:15 and 8 o'clock, I got stuff to do. So that's why I knew you were doing stuff with the entertainer. Chris is a good dude.
No, they're my every week. They're my every week listen. I love these guys. They're also good friends of mine as well.
Yeah, we love you. I mean, who's the guy after a tough Knick game? Who's the first person I'm talking to? It's usually you. So it's,
yeah.
But you know what it is?
Misery.
What we try to do is we try to do our own thing. We try to be a compliment to the shows that are out there. We're friends with a lot of the shows now. You guys, we're glad you're part of our friend group, but we don't want to replicate other people. We want to kind of do our own thing. And it's at the end of the day, we're just two cousins who went to games every week, talk all the time, text all the time. Thought maybe someone else would want to hear this, and we like to compliment because we think Giants Twitter and Giants podcast, the family we all have makes Giant fans smarter. And we want to have the smartest fans in the NFL, because you talk to some moron who's a Cowboy fan or something, we want them to be smarter than them. So anything we can do to make the conversation better and, different ideas and thoughts out of left field, that's what we try to do.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, especially last moment. And Grump, I apologize that it took me so long to get back to you. Guys, it's the Cranky Fan and football_Grump. Dan, he's now part of the Rush crew. Wednesday nights, guys, sports gambling, fantasy football,
Yeah.
With Nikki. She
Yeah,
hosts the
we're
Wednesday
trying.
show.
I'm telling you right now, me and Nikki are coming up with plans daily. Like this football season is gonna be good. So like
I've been really happy with everything you guys have been doing. We got, of course, this on every Monday at 8 o'clock.
She won our March Madness pool, by the way.
I saw that.
She's the only one with UConn winning it all. So
I love it. Yeah, Nikki is awesome. And then of course we got Spartan Mike and Truth on Thursday doing the draft show. They suckered me in 2 weeks ago to do tight ends. Like you, Cranky. Tight end is my jam. I was a slot receiver in college, but I always idolized the tight ends because they were so much bigger. And because then I had to move the defense because I was too slow. So I always love the fact that to me, like you said, one of the most athletic guys on the field doesn't get a lot of credits to tight ends. They block, they're downfield, they're grinding out yards, they're fourth down specialists, they're everything. What doesn't the tight end do? I love it. So I'm like Cranky.
The cranky wife has said to me, if I was ever to leave, you would be probably for a tight end. So,
there you go.
Throwing it up.
There you go. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. I'd love to have you guys back on, and just, really enjoy what you guys do. I didn't know you were cousins till like before the show. Dan told me. I'm like, they are? I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, they go
like,
to games every week.
Yeah, I wish I had cool cousins like that.
Yeah.
He got all the looks, genes.
So do
I got all the height.
Sure. Well, guys, make sure you guys nygiantsrush.com. Check all the content out there. Friday, just so we do a little housekeeping. Friday, the Rush crew will be live from the Nick Gates camp from 4 to 8 o'clock. If you have a youth football player in the family, it is not too late to get tickets for his camp. You just go to Eventbrite, and it's /amped, AMPT.
Send off Nick the right way. I'm not going to be there, but honestly,
Nick will be there. Dan's got a new baby, so he can't hang out, but I will be there streaming live with Nikki and Chris. And then, guys, again, just so you know, 4 weeks later, we will be streaming live from the Isaiah Hodgins camp, which will also be in New Jersey on April 22nd. Guys, I will also drop this just in the toolbox. If you're interested in coming on during those interviews, if you guys are around, I'd love to patch you in and let you in because I'm always like looking to make the show more entertaining. It's like a 3-hour broadcast because I'm going to be at these camps streaming for 3 hours. So if you guys are around, I'll shoot you an invite.
Maybe I'll stop. Maybe I'll find a way to come stop by through the show.
Yeah. So that one's April 22nd. Isaiah Hodgins. Same thing. Tickets are available if you have a youth football player from 8 to 12. Tickets are available. It's Eventbrite /amped, AMPT. We are NY Giants Rush. That's the Cranky Fan. That's Football Grump. Make sure you check them out. It's the Just Giants podcast. They do a great job. Make sure you tune in those guys. Guys, I apologize it took so long. Who knew you guys were this much fun?
Well, I did.
No worries.
Not many people. So if you look at
the best things in life are worth waiting for, Craig.
Rock and roll, man. Thanks, guys. This will be, of course, up YouTube, all the platforms, just as always is. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.